light within my heart, light within my thoughts, light within my words. May one and all and everything, blessed and loved, ever be. Welcome. I am Sister Who. I was talking with a young friend the other day about Pride celebrations and how they have gravitated into these money-oriented celebrations of nothing in particular. That it's as if there is supposed to be something wonderful about flashy costumes and loud music and let's just make a lot of noise. But I don't know if anyone remembers why we're making noise or what was behind it all or what is the growth process. Within tribal societies, there were coming-of-age rituals where a youth of either gender would get to a certain age and there would be something that would somehow declare them an adult to their community. Sometimes it was a test of physical or intellectual prowess. Sometimes it might be a vision quest where they would go for 3 days and come back a changed person, having had some particular kind of vision. And I kind of thought as I was reading the account that, yeah, if I went hungry and without water for 3 days, I'd probably be having visions too. I just don't know exactly what kind of visions. But in any case, which is not to dismiss them, because I think those were still legitimate visions, but there are various things that one can do to the human body that provoke and inspire the brain to respond with visions and perceptions and unusual thoughts and all sorts of things, because in some ways the body is responding to what isn't usually there, food or water or whatever. And yet in other ways, because it was within the context of a community, someone would make sure that they weren't gone so long that it was actually life-threatening, that they would have enough time to have their own unique spiritual experience of whatever description, but not so much time that they're ever actually in danger of dying or of not coming back. I suppose in one way, one could say it was a brush with death, but it wasn't so much a brush with death as it was putting the body and the mind under certain stresses where you would see out of the ordinary sorts of things and think out of the ordinary sorts of thoughts, and that those would then be incorporated with the help of the elders of the tribe into a vision or a self-definition that would allow that person to pursue who they really were within that tribe. Well, for a long time, and in a lot of places still, to grow up as a gay or lesbian youth, you're in a world where everything in the world is heteronormative. And you grow up feeling like you're an anomaly or an abnormality of some kind, and trying to create a good, positive self-image and a way to build your life constructively from this place of being the one who never gets the girl in any of the movies, the girl who never meets her handsome prince in any movies. Because in her specific case, maybe she was really looking for the handsome princess, or maybe he was really looking for the handsome prince. It comes from a deeper knowing inside, and I don't know that anyone can exactly say how or why or what it's going to be, because for every person that is ever born, there are millions of possible combinations of genetics that could result in a million different kinds of people. And so as one person said, there's a sense in which all of us are winners because we all became the one who made it to conception and beat out millions of others. And so every person is inherently special, but trying to deal with the ways that each person is special can be a humongous challenge. I recall a movie I saw made a number of years ago. I think it was called Big Eden, about a presumably hypothetical small town in Montana where this young man comes back. His parents are already gone, they never say why, but his grandfather is there. His grandfather has a heart attack, and so he comes back to take care of him. He's been living as a gay man in New York City, but he doesn't feel the strength or the confidence to be out, to be known as a gay man in this small local community where he grew up. And there's this wonderful conversation partway through the movie where it's as if everyone in the movie knows he's gay, but no one ever comes out and says it. No one ever, is direct about it. And so at one point, his grandfather makes the comment, "I suspect I'm going to see your grandma very soon." And he says, "Don't talk like that because grandma has passed away." And he says, "Well, I have to know that we did right by you, that we didn't teach you shame because you won't tell me who you are. Did we teach you to be ashamed of yourself?" And he says, "No." And he kind of breaks down crying, and they have a big hug fest, but he still never comes out and tells his grandfather that he's gay. But his grandfather clearly knows, but it reduces it to the basic point of being ashamed of yourself or of being confident being whoever and whatever you find yourself to be. So the Pride celebrations came about because in 1969 there was what was called the Stonewall riots, where there was a collection of drag queens and people of all different races who were at this small bar called the Stonewall in New York City. And the police thought they were going to do a typical sort of raid and came in to arrest them all and drag them off, and just for being different, just for doing, and there was a whole list of things they had at that time that you had to have three articles that were consistent with your gender in order to avoid being arrested, because you could literally be arrested as a man dressing up in women's clothing if you didn't have 3 male articles on you at the time. In any case, the police arrived, started the raid. Somebody in that very mixed crowd of anomalies and social misfits decided they had had enough, and they fought back. And in a matter of minutes, the police suddenly found themselves on the defensive and barricaded themselves inside the bar where they called for reinforcements. What that touched off was 3 days of rioting, during which the whole neighborhood converged and began fighting with police over the right, if you will, to be gay or lesbian. The right to go through life not lying about who they are, not pretending to be something they're not in order to avoid harassment. And from the Stonewall riots then became all these pride celebrations. Like as with virtually every minority or every marginalized population, though, the first battles are always fought by the blue-collar workers, the misfits, the disenfranchised, the poor. And then as things begin to make progress, the white-collar members of that category begin to step in and organize things and run things in an efficient business sort of way, and all our bills are paid, and the parade permits are properly, all the bureaucracy and all the money is correct. The problem is, as they do that, they begin to marginalize the people who fought the first battles because they're not the public image we were looking for. And so I got myself in arguments with some of those administrators for a number of years because I kept telling them, you're being economically exclusive. In my first Pride parade, it was open to anybody who showed up, who wanted to stand up and say, I am who I am, and march down the street with a rainbow flag or whatever flag they wanted to. And it was a priority that it be inclusive, that whoever you are and whatever you are, come on, join us. We're not excluding anybody. And so it was drag queens and leather people and everybody in between. But over time, as the white-collar gays and lesbians came in and wanted to make it organized and well-funded and corporate sponsorship and so forth, it got to where they were embarrassed by some of these misfits. And the drag queens and the leather people and various other anomalies began to be pushed to the side. And initially, everyone who wanted to be in the Gay Pride Parade could come. Now it's gotten to the point where to be in the Gay Pride Parade cost more money than I could afford. And so I kept arguing with the organizers that they were being economically exclusive, that there were all kinds of people who needed the freedom to stand up and say, I am what I am. This is my coming out. This is my coming of age ritual to participate in my first Gay Pride Parade. And they couldn't because they couldn't afford it, because participation had become so expensive. And so the organizers finally made it clear to me that I was no longer welcome at Pride Fest, which I find very odd, considering that I have an international TV show and present myself as an openly gay nun. But in any case, they said I was no longer welcome. So I stopped going to the Pride Fest because I really couldn't see what I could do there that was any good. I wanted to stand for the people who couldn't pay the parade fees, who didn't have all the funds and the money, who didn't look perfect. They were just ordinary people, or maybe they were creatively wonderful in diversion. But they were people. And I have always lived as if, because I really do believe that everyone matters. And a person is a person is a person. And the issues that gays and lesbians have dealt with are also faced by bisexuals and transgender, and a whole long list of other ethnic and religious minorities. So I come back to saying a person is a person is a person, which is actually from Dr. Seuss. Horton Hears a Who. It's something I remember from when I was a very small child. With all of that in mind, well, before I jump to, I'd like to share a song with you that I wrote about all that in a moment. But before I do that, I was corresponding with a gay young man in Canada, and we were talking about this topic, and I sent him a response of, what would it be if Sister Who organized a Pride Fest? What kind of Pride Fest would I do? And so here's some of the things I said in the letter that I sent to him. Let's see. There used to be a number of independent communication lines for LGBT individuals, but the ones I knew have all faded considerably. Online communications are often presented as an alternative, but that invites the risk of economic exclusion, because there are still a lot of people. The last time I checked, the statistic I found on the internet is that approximately 50% of the world has no internet access, and that's a lot of people to leave out simply because they can't afford a computer. Let's see. A significant number of people of all ages do not orient to technological and monetary resources, but should not for that reason be excluded. Whenever dialogue is accomplished, however, it often seems that each generation is dealing with primarily the same issues, but the masks and the names these issues wear shift in various ways from time to time. It is a wondrous thing to discover commonality coexisting with diversity. I always get a little nervous, however, when individuals of any age employ social constructions to avoid openly being and developing whomever they find themselves to be. Those who choose to retain closeted forms of living their lives, for example, are often ambivalent about the battles that drag queens and leather people have fought on their behalf. I try to remind them that the world would be a far more unfriendly place, except for the advances in civil rights that have been accomplished by individuals of whom they would not approve. Of course, there are individuals and ideological forces that would not approve of them as well. No one is so universally accepted that maintaining inclusivity is irrelevant. The incursion of economic and demographic exclusivity is what I would consider perverse within particular pride-oriented events. If I were to orchestrate a pride event, the idea I suggested many years ago was that there would be several small stages with open microphones and a moderator standing nearby to prevent anyone from ranting at others rather than talking about their own experience, so that individuals could openly tell their stories and move toward greater self-acceptance and increased communal understanding. On a similar note, there would be areas with picnic tables encouraging private conversations between individuals, with ministers and counselors supervising so that they could moderate any conversation that became too heated. Additionally, parades and marches should have entries within which participation has no associated fee, such as first-timers, so that individuals could stand up, celebrate coming out, and be applauded by others for having the courage to do so. Presentations of LGBT history would also be important to discourage anyone from forgetting the high price that has been paid. Unfortunately, I've yet to see any Pride event with any of these components. Where this all came to to me composing a song, I guess, to say it's diverse, but we need to be inclusive. And it starts with the person in the mirror, that the face in the mirror, and sometimes, in terms of spirituality, which is very much a part of my life, it has to do with finding a place to be quiet and listen to your own heart and find out what rings true for you. In trying to bring all this to me, this is the song I wrote. Teddy bears and building blocks, matchbox cars and fossil rocks, and dreams of what my life would be in time. Learning how to read and write, to ride my bike and fly a kite, and how much can be done with just a dime. Being told the world is black and white, and everything is either wrong or right. But what does all this mean? It's all a part of who I am, the paths I've walked, the place I stand, the feelings that stir within my heart. I won't consent to live a lie. I won't just go away and die. I'll smile and laugh and then reply. I am who I am. Never cry and be a man. Make all the money that you can, and never tell a lie. Choose your friends most carefully, and make decisions prayerfully, and never question why. So they say, but do not do. Who then shall I listen to? And what does all this mean? It's all a part of who I am, the paths I've walked, the place I stand, the feelings that stir within my heart. I won't consent to live a lie. I won't just go away and die. I'll smile and laugh and then reply. I am who I am. I felt the ocean at my feet and climbed the mountain's rocky peak and taken time to gaze upon the stars. I've journeyed far across the sea and held on to some dreams for me, and written songs to play on my guitar. Still I'm learning more, it seems, of how many ways there are to be. But what does all this mean? It's all a part of who I am, the paths I've walked, the place I stand, the feelings that stir within my heart. I won't consent to live a lie. I won't just go away and die. I'll smile and laugh and then reply. I am who I am. I am who I am. I am who I am. I recall someone putting the placard out once, I guess, when people say, well, if there's a gay pride parade, shouldn't there be a straight pride parade? And I guess my first question is, do you feel ashamed of being straight? But the placard I saw was, be thankful you don't need one. But it also raises the question, because human history has persecuted so many different groups, I guess, some religiously, some ethnically. I don't know if there's anyone left who hasn't been a persecuted group at some point. Irish, Italians, the Asians, the Africans, when does it all stop? There was a wonderful documentary I saw a number of years ago called The Singing Revolution, which talked about the long and difficult process by which the citizens of Estonia found their way to independence. And there was even a time where the Estonians were the persecuted group, and there was an attempt by the Soviet Union to displace them with Russians, as if one nationality is any better or worse than another. The problem with every group, I suppose, is that there are both good and bad examples in every one. The challenge, I guess, or the point I would want everyone to consider is that each person you ever meet is a valuable resource with hidden treasures in them. And if you expect everyone to be the same and to be ashamed of who they truly are, there'll be a whole lot of gifts and a whole lot of inventions that never happen. Imagine, for example, if Leonardo da Vinci never painted The Last Supper because he was told to conform and be like everyone else and paint wonderful little idyllic pastoral landscapes that didn't disturb anybody, instead of picking challenging topics. Or if somebody told Beethoven not to compose the Fifth Symphony because it was just too disturbing to someone who was listening to it, or Wagner's operas, and none of these people were all that perfect. They all had a mixture of good and bad qualities, but they had a particular creative genius that would only be appreciated if they were allowed to be themselves. So imagine for a moment that Henry Ford never invented the car because he was busy holding down a day job, and Edison never invented the light bulb because he was working at the local corner store, and Michelangelo never carved David because he was busy tilling the field. All these sorts of different things where if we take the people who are gifted and tell them to be more normal, that the unique creative gifts that they have given to all of humanity throughout time would not exist. My contention is that there are Michelangelos and Leonardos and Beethovens and Madame Curies and Harriet Tubman and all these incredible people in history who made history specifically because they did not conform. They took pride in themselves even when nobody else would allow them to be proud of themselves. When everyone was telling them to be ashamed of being unique and different, that instead they stood up and said, no, I'm going to live my own life, create my own works, do what my heart tells me I need to do. And with the whole gay pride phenomena and starting with the Stonewall riots, the people who were not accepted. The other story I always remember, because I grew up in only an hour from there, is the story of the first gay pride parade in Dubuque, Iowa, which, as I understand it, the record I read was that there were 72 people who decided to have a gay pride parade, and they marched for 3 blocks through Dubuque, Iowa, through downtown Dubuque, And the entire way they were being pelted by eggs thrown by people on both sides of the street. And because 72 people endured being pelted by eggs for 3 blocks, they came back the next year and there was another gay pride parade, only this time there was 200 people and there were no eggs. But regardless of whether it's orientation or ethnicity or religion or whatever it is, like the grandfather in the movie Big Eden, to get to a point of saying, no, I'm not going to live with shame. I'm going to live my own life, be my own person. And if it's not like anybody else's, it doesn't matter. It's me. It's what I have to give to the world. It's the ways that I will empower the world if the world is willing to receive it. One of the challenges of that is that sometimes the creative artists and thinkers and visionaries and pioneers are ahead of their time. And it may be that the people who will most appreciate what you have to offer haven't been born yet, but that the people 100 years from now will be so thankful that you had the nerve to stand up and say, I'm not ashamed. I'm proud of being me. And I'm going to make that the very best thing that I can make it. I'm going to strive for excellence. I'm going to make it the most beautiful I can. I'm going to present the honesty and truth, the authenticity that is me. Thank you very much for watching. I hope that some of the things I've said have been helpful to you, and I hope that you were able to find the strength to come out about whoever and whatever you are, in whatever context people need to know the specialness of you. Thank you for watching.